Welcome back, everybody, to 31 2000s horror movies for Halloween, where I'm counting down my favorite horror movies from 2000 to 2009. Sorry, I stumbled with that a bit. I'm going to be here for a while, so be ready for that. At number 23, we're going to Australia with another disturbing movie, but such a well-done horror movie. So at number 23, we have Wolf Creek.
Where were we? Let's play.
Wolf Creek is one of my favorite Australian horror movies, and it's very good. It gets disturbing at certain points. It's also one of my favorite serial killer movies. I would consider this one a serial killer movie, more than a slasher movie, but it's so well done. Now, Wolf Creek is a slow burn, but it's a good slow burn. There's a lot of people who have the misconception that a slow burn means that the movie is boring, not when it's done well. A slow burn horror movie is when the movie is basically a film in a different genre, with horror happening around the story, and as the story goes on, horror starts to invade the story until it completely takes over in, like, the third act. So the movie starts out as a different kind of genre, but then is invaded by horror. Like, horror is happening around the story, and then it starts invading the story as you get into the third act. And that's what Wolf Creek is. Wolf Creek is like a vacation movie with these three friends as they're going across Australia, and you can feel a budding romance coming between two of the characters, and then as we get to the third act, it becomes a very, very brutal horror movie.
Like your little mate said before, you know, that's not a knife. This is a knife.
So our main villain in this movie is Mick Taylor, and when we first come across this character, he seems like a very nice guy. Our main characters get stranded out in the Australian outback, and then Mick Taylor comes on, offers to help them, and then he turns out to be a serial killer. He kidnaps them, and then very, very, very bad things happen, as we expect in any horror movie. Now, Wolf Creek was inspired by a few actual events, particularly two backpackers that were killed in the Australian outback. I won't focus too much on that right now, but look into it more yourself. It's fascinating in a tragic and disturbing way. But anyway, so the character of Mick Taylor is terrifying because, like I said, he comes across as such a friendly character, and then turns out to be an absolute psychopath, but he still talks in this kind of friendly Australian way when he's being horrifying.
Still awake, are you? You know, a man's a real goose, eh? I mean, took 4 hours to get those fucking parts out of your car, right? Now the bastard of thing's all burnt. What do you think of that?
The slow pacing of the first few acts makes all the disturbing stuff that happens later on even worse. So that slow build-up is worth it for that payoff, and it is well done. I compare it to Audition, because Audition has gone down in history as one of the most disturbing horror movies ever made, but it does take time to build up to that. The movie is like a romantic drama until it gets to the point where it becomes a horror movie. That's essentially the same thing with Wolf Creek. If you go into it, it is a disturbing horror movie. It is a fucked up horror movie. But if you go into it expecting the most disturbing horror movie you've ever seen, right from the beginning, you're going to be disappointed. Understand that it's a slow burn when you go into it, and you will enjoy it more. But yeah, when Wolf Creek gets into the horror, it gets into the horror. Our main characters, you feel so bad for them, and you're rooting for them to escape, but things just get so awful in a good way, in a disturbing way that you want in a movie like this. But it just goes to some rough territory. For those who haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it here, but it's scary. Taylor is just so terrifying, and there's one particular scene, again, I won't spoil it here, but it really comes off as terrifying. All I will say is that there's a person who is helpless, and Mick Taylor is reveling in the fact that the character is helpless. This is a movie that's not afraid to kill off people that you don't expect to die. I mean, I know that is probably a bit of a spoiler, but it's the fact of the matter here, and I respect horror movies that are not afraid to kill off likable characters. What's the point in making a horror movie if you're too afraid to put your characters in danger? But yeah, and the violence it's another one of those movies where the violence is more raw and realistic than flashy, and that just makes things 10 times worse. And it's a movie that you don't expect to end the way that it ends. I mean, it is a good ending and a very fitting ending for this movie, but it's not the ending that you expect it to go. And it does have a good final image. I love a good final image for a horror movie, and Wolf Creek has a very good final image. Not a jump scare, but just that one last image that helps the movie stick with you after you're done watching it. So yeah, Wolf Creek, that's my number 23 spot on this list. Great horror movie, disturbing horror movie. Don't know if everybody will want to watch it this Halloween, but if you want something that's going to be a good punch in the gut, I'd suggest Wolf Creek for this Halloween season.
Oh, I can tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.